So I don't want to make that mistake again. So I'm looking on my phone just to make sure.
Okay.
Because it's saying the event will start soon, waiting for the host to start. So I'm just giving it another
Don't
30
worry.
seconds here.
Got all the animals out of my office. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. All right, Kelly, we are excited. I know I'm excited at least, and I know you're excited too for the pre-call, but we're going to focus today's session specifically on a very important topic for product launch strategies. And I know you've personally been a part of a lot of product launch strategies. I have as well for, healthcare, life science, med tech, medical device, aesthetic devices. And so we wanted to bring some value, obviously, around product launch strategy. And so for today's session, we're going to focus on a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of unique things when it comes to digitally engaging HCPs, right? So if you're trying to target any type of HCP healthcare provider, you're definitely watching the right session here. We're going to talk about digital tactics and strategies, but then also we're going to get into details about what sort of videos, right, that you should be incorporating into your launch strategy. And there's a variety of different videos that you could be incorporating. So we have kind of like a top three that we felt were the most impactful and important that we've launched, obviously, for clients over the years. And we know it's not easy to do a product launch, right? Kelly, you got like one time to kind of like make a big impact. And usually if it's a larger company organization and maybe it's a new launch, maybe it's an updated launch, right? There's a lot of eyeballs on these types of product launches. And so I'm excited to go down kind of the rabbit hole and unpack a lot of these digital and video tactics. So I'm just going to put it up here on the screen just to keep us on the same track when it comes to the agenda. So for today's session, as I was mentioning, like, hey, we're focusing on product launch strategies for both digital and video and how you can incorporate this into your product launch. We're going to also talk about how you can warm up and condition the market, right, to anticipate this type of launch. And then I was mentioning earlier, we're going to share specific digital marketing tactics to obviously engage and influence those HCPs that you're looking to target. And then also videos, right? Like what are some of the common videos that we've launched over the years to help drive that, that new launch for the product? And then conferences, right? Everybody listening, more than likely, you're attending conferences, you're planning for conferences. Obviously, being in the healthcare, life science, med tech space, it's just part of the process when you're a marketer is conferences. So we're going to showcase and specifically walk through a couple different ways you can leverage conferences for your next launch. And then, we're going to go through a case study, right? Kelly, we're going to showcase specifically a digital launch case study around a conference. And then at the end of the day, for something like this, like the key thing to think about here is like, this is an amplification strategy, right? You're amplifying the things you're normally doing. And so these tactics compare really well with what you're already doing, or maybe this will open your eyes to some new tactics. Kelly, is there anything else that you want to share when it comes to kind of the agenda here?
No, just the importance of when you're going to market with a new product, time is of the essence. The last thing you really want is to have a product launch that is slow and meandering, and especially when we know that these markets are so competitive. This industry is so competitive. So hopefully these things will help give you some tools and tactics to accelerate your product launch.
Yeah, exactly. These are some things that will help you stand out. I think they're fairly unique in some situations. Some people may have been executing these already, but regardless, hopefully this will just generate some ideas and some things that you can share with your team to say, hey, have we thought about doing this next time for a launch? Because as we know, Kelly, most marketers have like a checklist pretty much, right, for their launches. And some of these things might not be on their checklist. And this first one, I think, is one of the most important ones, Kelly. So if you want to start discussing specifically, hey, let's get into the market warming process and what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so often marketers don't really think about doing this or don't have time to do this. That's really been our experience with different companies. So the goal of market warming or conditioning, they kind of, another term for it is priming the pump, but really the whole goal here is to develop those relationships that are deeper relationships that you can then activate once you start going to market. Market warming or conditioning typically is 3 to 12 months, depending on the situation. Many times people are going to be employing this type of a tactic when their product is going through FDA review, or specifically is getting ready to be FDA reviewed or approved. Sorry. The types of content and people that you're going to be leveraging will be something like KOLs, thought leaders, physicians potentially who have been involved in the clinical trial. And maybe even key patient advocates would be another area. And market warming is very much recommended for products that are complex. Maybe it's novel technology where you're really going to need much more significant education around the product, really in order to really make that product launch that much more successful. Typically, the tone in this particular stage is very much educational, typically non-branded as a general rule. And then if we go,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead. Jump in there, Jason.
No. I was just going to say what happens a lot of times is all of a sudden just kind of keying in on specifically on the FDA approval, right? Most clients don't know when that's going to happen,
Exactly.
right? All of a sudden, and you've heard this before, like, hey, we're hoping by the end of the year, or the first part of the year, right? So you want to try to lay out these things like strategically ahead of time. So when the green light flashes go from the FDA, like you want to have these things kind of like already teed up on the side. And I think to your point, sometimes they don't have time to do the market warming, right? Sometimes it's like 3 months, or sometimes it's a little bit less than that, but it's still, if there's at least a little bit of a runway, right, to do the market warming, I think it's definitely critical to do it.
Agreed. And then if we take a look at the next slide, I just kind of want to touch on some of what some of those videos might look like in this particular phase. So thought leadership, of course, both KOLs and subject matter experts. Clinical trial investigators are great to do video content specifically around. And then also, if you can leverage high-profile clinician and researchers, that's another big area. Definitely going towards that peer-to-peer type content. And then also, if you can engage different academic, high-profile groups or individuals that can really help provide more information about the research, how important this is, how significant this is. Another great thing to do is you can talk about clinical trial updates and progress. That's a really kind of a no-brainer. It really starts kind of priming that pump and getting people excited about the prospect of the new product coming out. Additionally, case studies are great, is a great area to go in and really highlight the success of the clinical trials and the impact on the patients, as well as also doing kind of testimonials around clinical trial participants, showing their struggle with the disease and then showing what their progress and the impact on that patient has been from the clinical trials. Yeah. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, my big takeaway for this is specifically when it comes to the videos, we're going to unpack a few different varieties of different videos that you should be incorporating in the launch. But if you can get that up front in the market warming process, right, you take those early adopters maybe that are the ones that are not necessarily taking the risk, but have already started using, whether it's a device, a diagnostic test, whatever it may be, like these are the beta people. And if you can get them to talk about how it's transformed, patient care, or how it's transformed their workflow in their practice, whatever it may be, those transformational type sound bites, like if you can get that on video, right, that's just going to help grow the adoption of your new solution. If you can't do that, then obviously, hey, I would rely on your subject matter experts, right? Those are the ones that are close to it. They know it well. But yeah, definitely market warming videos are critical in this space. And we'll definitely unpack some additional videos later on in this session. But I wanted to piggyback a little bit more off the market warming process. This is a little bit different tactic, specifically around digital and reaching HCPs. online, right? As they navigate like lifestyle sites. So, physicians are humans too, right? They go and check news and sports and gardening and breaking news and those sorts of things. So it's a great opportunity to introduce your new launch. And again, whether it's a medical device, aesthetic device, diagnostic test, med tech, it doesn't really matter, right? What we're doing, the kind of the secret sauce with this is we're taking those NPI numbers, and you're probably familiar with it if you're watching this because it's the National Provider Identifier. We're also using CPT codes, billing codes, right, to leverage up front. And so we're taking that first party data and we're reaching HCPs online specifically one-to-one. And I'm going to give you a list on the next slide here that talks through just some of the specialties we're reaching on a regular basis. But I want to talk a little bit more and how this technology actually works on the back end. And so the way it works is that HCP, let's just say, for example, you're trying to target a medical oncologist online and you've got a new liquid biopsy test, or you've got a new diagnostic test that you're trying to get out in front of these HCPs or specifically medical oncologists. Once they go online that they visit that actually uses their email address. So some sort of logged in experience that triggers with our team. And then we also have a lot of partners that we work with to actually execute this and get the data. But then once they go online, we know. So we can give you a report. And I'm going to show that a little bit later here too, that you can actually see which physician saw your ad and then clicked on it. But basically how it works is once they get that email address, once they're logged in, again, we know they're online, we can start targeting them with a message, right? We're going to target them and track them specifically with your ad campaign. And then as they navigate, just like you and I do online, right? So news, we're bouncing around all over the place. And there's thousands and millions of websites. And so as they navigate to these different lifestyle sites, we can serve an ad to them about your product launch. Another way to think about this is it's display advertising. It's also called programmatic advertising. And then again, we're going to show your ad. We want to drive traffic back to your website, right? Just so they can learn more about your solution. And then that's what really starts the whole process of frequency, right? So what we want to be able to do is once they visit your website, we have a tracking pixel on there, then we can start the whole retargeting process. Because especially if you're new to the market, you're a new brand, maybe you haven't been around before. So there's no brand cachet, right? So we want to create that frequency. And the great thing about retargeting is you're able to kind of do that. Kelly, any thoughts on the MPI one-to-one targeting?
Yeah, just the fact that you can target healthcare professionals in their specialty is powerful enough. But I think one element that really is kind of a game changer for this type of technology is the fact that you can really get granular and hone in and really engage those physicians that are doing certain procedures, that are prescribing certain drugs, and that is extremely powerful. That's, in my opinion, probably one of the things that makes this just amazing, the way that this technology works.
Yeah, and there's no waste. I mean, honestly, it's like we have the numbers, we've got that first party data up front. And so it's the most hyper relevant online targeting that you can do for HCPs. Like you and I, Kelly, have been doing digital marketing and advertising for many years. It used to be the fact where you can just buy a website, right, way back in the day, and you were kind of guessing the demographic and the audience, where this is much more hyper relevant, hyper specific based on that HCP, and we're using that data up front. So I just want to like a quick recap. I know there was a lot of information about MPI numbers. So again, if you're targeting a medical oncologist, it doesn't have to be a medical oncologist. I'm going to show the next slide some of the specialties that we can reach. But think about it like, these are the variety of different websites we're going to reach them on. Fortune, New York Times, Yahoo, Forbes, Spotify, right? There's millions of websites out there. So as soon as they go online, we can start showcasing your product launch through the display ad, drive website traffic back to that product page or landing page. And the great thing about this technology, it's across device. So we may start on the tablet, may go to the desktop, may go to obviously your mobile phone and or laptop. And then the beautiful thing about digital, as we all know, hey, we can optimize this, right? So we can look at where's this traffic being driven, right? What's the bounce rate on that page? Do we need to optimize that website? What's the ad format look like, right? What's the call to action? So we can get really specific and change things on the fly. And now systems that basically are in place running these campaigns, like it's really smart technology. So it's kind of starts optimizing on its own, right? So we do a good job, obviously, with clients up front to say, hey, how are we measuring this? What are the KPIs? This type of tactic pairs well with other bottom of the funnel tactics too, right? So if you think about it from an omni-channel approach, right, this is a top of the funnel. You're building that awareness, that brand, driving them back to your website, building that frequency with retargeting. And then it's also going to drive search traffic, right? Because all of a sudden that HCP, maybe they went to the website, but they want to learn more later on. So it's definitely going to help that omni-channel marketing approach. And then, as I was mentioning, this is just a really small sample of some of the specialties that we can reach and some of the recent counts. So like the first one we were talking about was medical oncologists. So right now we can reach close to 5,000, but then there's hematology, there's OBGYN, there's RN nurses, there's radiology. And so one thing I wanted to mention in this session too is if there's interest to see these specialties or any of these slides, feel free to reach out to Kelly or myself, and we're happy to send those to you after this session. But again, this is just kind of a small sampling of those. And at the end of the day, again, if they have an MPI number, which all physicians are required by HIPAA for financial transactions, we can target them online digitally for your launch. And I'm not going to go into details about retargeting because most people know about retargeting now. But again, the goal is to drive them back to a landing page or website and then create that frequency. Kelly, anything else you want to mention before I get into the reporting?
Actually, I'll tee it up exactly to where you're going here. So
Nice.
one thing to remember is this tactic is really about awareness. It's not a direct response. It is display. But what's very interesting, and one of the superpowers of this type of technology, is the fact that you can then get a list, and Jason will go into a little bit more about this, but this is definitely a top of the funnel awareness, should be paired with other tactics, but it also then can be turned into very much a direct response type of tactic. And I'll let Jason go into a little bit more detail about that.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where marketers kind of start drooling because one, this is a lot of actionable data, right? So, your job as a marketer is turning those marketing qualified leads into sales qualified leads. Well, we have these reports that we send out every single month that showcases specifically which HCP saw the ad and then also clicked on the ad. But then it actually gets you the data. So again, think about it. We're starting with that data up front. We've got those MPI numbers and we've got all that other information. So from an action standpoint, this is something you can definitely share with the sales team. So whether you have a inside sales team, outside sales team, it doesn't really matter because we've got the data to understand, hey, what's the first name and last name of that position? What's the address? What's the title? What's the specialty? And if they have some sort of hospital affiliation, that data is going to be provided to you. So think about it like this is typically in a spreadsheet format. We send that to clients, they upload it to their CRM, and then obviously they can slice and dice that data differently based on the territory of the reps. So if there's certain reps in the West Coast versus East Coast or Midwest, right, you can territorize that based on the address. And again, the whole goal is to take those marketing qualified leads and turn them into sales qualified leads. So this is a great report that you can send over to the VP of sales and then really showcase one, we're driving lead gen here, right? These are the people that have shown interest. They saw the ad, they clicked on it. They don't have to fill out a form online to get that data. And so again, it's really actionable information that you can share with the sales team. Anything else you want to expand upon on that one, Kelly?
Yeah, that we have the availability to take this list and then do a match and also provide you with the email address. So saving you one more step that instead of having to go and source the email addresses and those types of things, we can also provide that, which makes it quick and easy and gives you a nice warm lead list to really start developing.
Yeah. And the marketers watching this too, it's one of those things where they know email's tricky, right? Because some physicians, they have somebody else checking it, right? Or it's just like a bottleneck that they send their emails to. Some of them interact, right? So it's kind of like, why wouldn't you include it, right? In the reporting. And to your point, like we scrub that. We've got it just depends, like percentages definitely vary, but we can definitely match those email addresses, which definitely should be part of the program for sure. All right, Kelly, we're switching gears here. We're downshifting or upshifting, whatever you want to say. We're going to shift over to videos. So we're going to put our video hat here on. And again, these are the top three. So if you're launching a product, a diagnostic test, an aesthetic device, these are the top three videos. There's other videos you can obviously create too, but these are the top three in our opinion. So let's get into it, Kelly, here. So The first one, we're calling, and videos are kind of one of those things where you can call them a few different things. So in this case, we're calling it, it's basically like a trailer or like a sizzle video. The best way I like to articulate this and think about this is it's like a movie trailer, right? You've seen these all before that primetime movie comes out. Like it's the best cuts, right, of that movie. So that's when you're launching, again, whatever solution you have, like let's create that anticipation, but then also some education too. So again, if you think of it as like a story narrative, as a movie trailer, it's going to get someone interested. It's going to hack their attention. And that's really the goal. So again, if you want to call it a trailer video, you want to call it a sizzle video, it doesn't really matter. But typically it's in that, 45 to 60-second kind of time frame. And then it's multi-use case, right? So from a deployment standpoint, you can think of this type of video, and it depends if it has voiceover or doesn't. We've created them both ways. But like as an example, let's say there's no voiceover and it's just really, high impact visuals with some text on screen narrating that person through like that movie trailer. Like this would be a great thing to put on your booth loop in the conference, right? So if you're trying to do the conference, and we'll talk a little bit more about conferences, obviously you can put this on social media, you can put this on your website too. So it's really multi-use for that deployment on this trailer, or kind of like, Kelly, what do you call this kind of video? Do you call it a sizzle video, or is it a trailer video in your mind?
I call it a teaser video because
Teaser, there you go.
we've got some great examples of some of these. You can really have a lot of fun, and they have a pretty big impact, and really just piquing the curiosity, but not providing too much information. And this is a great one, obviously, at the beginning of kind of that buyer's journey, piquing their interest, having one more exposure of this particular type of content is just kind of building on the subsequent types of videos that we'll be talking about.
Yeah. And I've seen these live a long time, meaning like these could be videos that you create, but then, if there's not a lot of product updates or integrations or anything else with it, like this is like evergreen content that you can actually create, right, and have for a long time. The other way to think about this too is, since it is like more motion graphics, animation, maybe some text on screen, if there are updates to the product, the test, whatever it may be, right, you can go in there and modify it pretty easy because it's not filming a live person. So if you need to change the script, you need to change the visuals. That's one of the beautiful things about this type of, and I like that better, Kelly. I'm going to start calling this a teaser video. I like that much better. The next video, we've all seen this before, not kind of shocking, but this is an explainer video. It's a little bit deeper into the product or solution. 1 to 2 minutes, right? You're getting a little bit more deeper understanding, more education. This is more kind of like that consideration stage. So they maybe watch the teaser and like, hey, what's that next video in the progression? This would be a great one from an explainer standpoint. Usually this one has more details. That's why it's longer, obviously. This one that we're creating typically has some sort of script with professional voiceover, because again, you've got them in your funnel. You can take your more time with that prospect to get a deeper understanding of your solution. So explainer videos in my mind, Kelly, are kind of a no-brainer for launch videos.
Agreed.
The third and final one, which honestly, I think this is probably one of the more important ones. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the teaser videos, but the KOL SME videos, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier during the market warming process, Kelly, and the conditioning, right? So KOLs have one of the most impactful things that you can do for, obviously product adoption or product launch. So again, it really just depends on where your solution is at in the process to launch. Sometimes you don't have those KOLs. They haven't used it. Like you've just launched it right now. The KOLs can get their hands on it. But if you have access to the KOLs and they've used it and they've got, experience around how it's helped them, how it's benefited them, like those reaction videos are a great opportunity to get that information. Usually these are the early adopters, obviously. If you don't have access to those KOLs and just the way your product launched, rolled out, like you just weren't able to, introduce this to any KOLs, like I would recommend leveraging your SMEs, right? Those are going to be the experts in that product. But if you are using KOLs, like that's a great peer-to-peer type like style of video, right? The other thing too is these are usually short, again, kind of reaction videos, 1 to 2 minutes. And we've got some ways that you can capture that next in the slides here. But Kelly, what are your thoughts on these like KOL SME videos?
Yeah, it's absolutely the social proof you need. And when you think about all three of these videos, this is kind of in our opinion, what we've seen being extremely effective as kind of the trifecta of launch videos. You have that teaser video where you get your product kind of on the landscape and somebody's thinking, huh, that's interesting. And then a little bit later, then you're getting more information about it, the explainer video. And then you've got that social proof where you've got peer-to-peer, where you have people who are speaking about it and, acknowledging the impact and that type of thing. So we really, really love this type of thing because it really does kind of take you down that buyer's journey with each of these different types of videos.
Yeah, and video has superpowers, as we all know, sight, sound, and motion. It's definitely a great way to introduce the launch, get someone interested. And then the other thing too is obviously based on time, and then just sharing these online gets to be challenging through the stream. So if anybody wants us to share like examples of a teaser video, explainer video, KOL or SME videos, let us know afterwards. Feel free to reach out to myself or Kelly. We're happy to get some examples to you after the session today if you wanted to take a look at those live versus us trying to stream it here. Go ahead. No.
I was also going to just add, we've also got some market warming videos too we can share. We've got some great samples for that. Sorry, the interruption.
Yeah, no, lots of samples, right, Kelly? We've got samples for everything. The other great way to execute this is, I love this strategy because it's utilizing just kind of traditional PR and then social media together. So one of the clients we worked with on a recent launch earlier in this year, specifically, we captured a lot of B-roll of their lab, right? We wanted to showcase and differentiate them from other labs. We also did some interviews with their leadership team, their lab directors, and then also just captured a lot of footage of inside the lab and outside the lab. The great thing about having these assets is they utilize this in a broadcast segment. So Fox Local News, again, they may have a PR agency that they reached out to help execute this, but they ended up using the high quality B-roll, that lab footage. So when that chief medical officer is, talking through the broadcast on Fox Local News, like they're seeing him, but then they're seeing that amazing B-roll of the lab in the background and then the footage. So our recommendation is leverage this information, right? Leverage the B-roll as much as possible for a launch. If you don't have a PR agency, obviously you can use it for other situations, but this is a great use case for video. We used to do this all the time, Kelly, when we're creating B-roll for companies that might be going IPO, right? All of a sudden, the media companies are reaching out to them because they went IPO. It's a great resource to have on your website. So at some point, you don't have to go IPO, but it's great to have media-friendly assets that someone can go into and obviously leverage for like situations like this, right, Kelly?
Absolutely. So even if you don't have a PR channel that you're utilizing, this is great for salespeople. So creating, and this is one that many times marketers miss. You're already developing this video. It's really inexpensive to then develop them into short sound bites and clips, and then put it on your site, not only for if you are utilizing and leveraging a PR channel, great, but it's also great for salespeople to take bits and pieces and utilize it in their outreach and in their sales.
Absolutely. Great sales enablement. I'm glad you brought that up, Kelly. And this is just another example. This is a screenshot specifically on LinkedIn, right? So they're taking that broadcast piece, they're putting it on social media like a LinkedIn post, but then they have high quality B-roll, right, of whatever device, right, whatever instrument, whatever test they have. So it's a great way to kind of pair traditional PR with the videos that you've created. And obviously, if you're launching, PR would definitely be a great way to do that. Kelly, before we get into conferences, anything else on the video side?
I think you hit it. And once again, thinking about that trifecta of videos so that you are layering on extra exposure and also bringing that prospect down the buyer's journey.
Absolutely. So let's get into conferences, right? We all go to conferences as marketers for HCP. So like, how do we take advantage of those opportunities? One, obviously during the conference, and again, this is focused around product launches or just even your adoption rate. Like, how do you capture videos at conferences? Because Kelly, like, this too, obviously it's one of the most efficient ways cost-wise, and then just capturing a lot of strategic footage. So a lot of times our crew is on the conference floor. They're on that trade show floor, and you've seen, the impact of these types of videos. One, obviously, if you are launching, at a certain conference, right? You've seen this before. We walk around and all of a sudden you see a crew. You're like, hey, this is like fear of missing out. Like, hey, what's going on over there, right? So you're almost like helping drive awareness, just having a crew there. But that's not the real strategy, right? The real strategy is capturing those reaction videos, either with your KOLs, your subject matter experts, and you can get multiple ones throughout the day. That's the efficiency, right, of being at the conference and capturing this. There's other situations where some conferences don't like us to be on the trade show floor, and that's okay. We've actually captured strategic videos at like hospitality suites just across the street. Different style. So, obviously at the end of the day, it's kind of like what the clients want to determine. But obviously, if you're in the booth, you're on the trade show floor, there's a certain edge to it. There's a certain vibe to that. Right? It's kind of hustle bustle. Where if you're in a more of a controlled environment, which is like a hospitality suite, obviously you're going to have aesthetically, you're in some sort of like hotel suite or a really nice room, right? And so the background's definitely different than being on the trade show floor. And again, we've done them in a variety of situations for hospitality suites or in booth. And again, if you're interested in looking at examples of these types of videos, we're happy to send them out to you after this session. Kelly, is there anything that you want to talk about when it comes to videos for conferences?
I think what's important to understand is you've got to stop thinking of video capture on an ad hoc basis. This is a great example. If you're launching a product at a particular conference, most likely you're also going to have KOLs, potentially customers or potential customers or SMEs there or company leadership. Great time to really maximize your marketing budget by capturing a lot of that content that then will fuel and create very good content moving forward throughout your product launch. So
Yeah, thanks
really,
for mentioning. Yeah, thanks for mentioning leadership because that's key too. We've done a lot of CEOs too, where again, it just kind of depends on where the launch is at from a process standpoint. But conferences are kind of like the easy button. The other opportunity for conferences to help make an impact for your launch. This is more digital, so we're obviously coming back to the digital campaign style, but it's called geofencing. You may have heard of it before. It's a tactic where we put a fence. It's like a virtual fence. You can't see it. You can see it in these blue dots. So let's say, for example, you've got a conference, you've got a launch happening at McCormick Place in Chicago, right? You can target all the attendees digitally. And so it's not like we're sending a push notification through text or anything like that. It's very similar to execution wise, like the NPI targeting, right? Where it's on lifestyle sites. This is a much more precise from a location standpoint, right? So we know these are attendees at McCormick Place because it's accurate within 10 feet. So as long as you have, and I know you have yours open, Kelly, mine's open too for location-based app because we're checking the weather, right? We're checking for our Uber, for our Lyft, right? So if their location-based services are open, we can target them within 10 feet. And the strategy for geofencing is twofold. One, it's a great way to reinforce what you're doing, like a product launch at that conference, but it's also a great way to follow up post-conference 30 days afterwards. So creatively, like the messaging is you're trying to drive booth traffic during the conference, obviously. Post-conference, maybe you're talking a little bit more about the product launch and you're driving them to a specific like landing page. But this is a great tactic for geofencing, and it's a lot more cost effective, Kelly, than like sponsoring the Wi-Fi, right? I was just doing some conference planning for a conference that's coming up like next month. I saw the price for the Wi-Fi, Kelly, and it was like $30,000 for the Wi-Fi just to sponsor it. Pretty insane, right? So obviously this sort of geofencing tactic is not $30,000 and it's digital, right? So we could measure it, measure the clicks, measure the traffic back to the website. When you're sponsoring the Wi-Fi or like sanitizer, it's really hard to get metrics.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to mention, just I want to kind of reinforce here, we are advertising. This is a geofence around the conference, and people are busy when they're at conferences. The real power and the real impact of this particular tactic is that post-conference follow-up for 30 days after. I mean, let's face it, you go to these conferences, you go and you get your badge scanned, and then right after the conference, your email box starts to overflow with follow-ups from everywhere you got your badge scanned. Really difficult to stand out in an inbox when you're, being bombarded. This is a great way to really be able to follow those people who were at the conference, and it's just a really effective way to stand out and differentiate from everybody, doing their follow-ups after a conference.
Yeah, it's that omni-channel approach, which that's what we always ultimately want. And the other thing that I didn't mention here is we put that virtual fence around the convention center, right? No Brainer, McCormick Place. Those are all the attendees. But we can also do it at headquarter hotels or hotels that are associated with that particular conference, right? So obviously that's another way to capture even more mobile IDs. So this is definitely a different tactic than like the NPI one-to-one targeting, where we've got that data up front. This is more of a location kind of based approach for digital targeting, right? And it works on those based on those two strategies that we mentioned. And I know we're going to get into a case study. I think people probably got how this works for the geofencing, so I'm going to kind of fly through this. I want to get into this case study because I think it's pretty important, because this type of case study not only uses the geofencing at medical conferences, Kelly, but as we rolled this out too, it has the MPI targeting. So when we worked with this client's top 10 medical device, they wanted to gain exposure for medical conferences. They had a launch. They're trying to reach cardiologists, right? The great thing about this launch was we did some of the market warming activities. We also did the MPI targeting and then the geofencing. So it incorporated all the tactics that we're mentioning. And then again, the goal is to stand out, right, with this product launch specifically to cardiologists. So the solution obviously harnessed the power of data, the MPI numbers, the geofencing. So for this campaign, like Kelly, remember, we targeted like 31,000 cardiologists, right? And we reached them cross-device, mobile, tablet, desktop. We did that geofencing, and it just happened that they had like 3 different conferences that were all within like a 90-day period. So like, obviously it doesn't work like that for every launch, but this one, it worked well just because of those synergies. So we warmed up the audience, we did the geofencing, and then had some really good results. So we ended up delivering 750,000 ad impressions during the conference. We achieved much more added value. So we actually achieved more impressions than what the client had paid for, which is always great. And then the goal going into this was like, hey, we want a cost per click that's at least $10. Like that's our threshold for cost per click. And so we came in lower than that, which is great, $7.23. And then we ended up driving over 2,000 clicks to that landing page for that product. And then obviously, for the conference itself, we ended up increasing leads specifically for those different conferences and different trade shows. So anything you want to mention on that one, Kelly, for the case study?
Just that it's so important not to think about just doing one tactic. If you can create multiple touches across multiple devices, and even prime the pump, as they say, and do some MPI targeting, programmatic targeting 3 months out prior to that conference, it's really, really an effective way to launch a product.
Boom. Love it. All right. So we're going to get into a sample schedule. I know we're about 37 minutes after, so we'll probably wrap this up in the last like 5 minutes or so. Specifically, we wanted to showcase like a schedule, right? So again, think of this as like, how do you help amplify some of the things you're already doing? Or like I was mentioning earlier, maybe these are some new ideas that you haven't thought about for your launch checklist. So as we already talked about, hey, the market warming, you want to do that if it's possible. We know if you're trying to get FDA clearance, sometimes you're not given 3 to 6 months in advance. But if it's not FDA related and it's been approved and maybe you're doing this after the FDA, like I would definitely incorporate some sort of MPI billing code HCP targeting, a lot of the market warming tactics that Kelly mentioned as well to kind of prime that pump, as she mentioned. And then obviously we talked through a lot of different conference strategies, creating the various different types of videos. So whether it's a teaser video, whether it's like getting those reaction videos, or maybe you've just got new data that you're trying to release, like that's a great opportunity to showcase that, capture that during the conference. And then that digital layer tactic of that geofencing to attendees during the conference. And then obviously post-conference is super important, right? You're going to do your badge scans, you're going to do your normal email outreach, but you can incorporate, and I didn't put it on the slide, but you can incorporate all those reaction videos, right, for your drip email sequence afterwards. So we're really good about turning around videos in this situation, if it is a product launch, like we can get those turned around pretty quickly. So you can start, messaging, using those right after the conference to help drive the growth of your adoption. But when you're doing the MPI targeting and geofencing, as we mentioned, that's all retargeting. That goes into a retargeting pool. We're driving all that traffic back to that product page, back to that launch page. And then we're obviously retargeting them with frequency. Kelly, is there anything else you want to mention about the schedule?
Nope, I think you hit it once again. Really want to look at an omni-channel or multiple touch type of campaign that brings those prospects along that buyer's journey.
Absolutely. And then do you want to wrap us here with these key takeaways? Are you cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just some key takeaways today. Remember, market warming is a really important tactic, especially if you've got a product that is potentially novel or disruptive, or and you really need to take the time to create deeper relationships to activate when you actually start rolling out the product. Remember to always utilize multiple tactics when possible, combining kind of that top of the funnel down to that lower funnel area. Also, NPI is a really great way to engage HCPs one-to-one. It is a great way to then create a lead list for your sales team to go out and continue developing. Although NPI is a display tactic and very much top of the funnel, it's a great way to then create more of a direct sales opportunity for your salespeople. Obviously, retargeting is also another great area, and really inexpensive to do to continue those exposures to your messaging and to your ads. And then when you're thinking about launching a product, really think about it not as one video, but think about it as multiple launch videos. Once again, really trying to kind of bring that prospect through the buyer's journey. And then one thing that many marketers forget to do is make sure you're utilizing the B-roll from your videos for PR amplification, but also to utilize and create tools for your salespeople. And then make sure you're leveraging conferences, especially when it comes to capturing supportive product launch video to really help fuel and create messaging throughout the product launch area. And conferences is such a cost-effective place and way to do that.
Boom. Great stuff, Kelly. So, as you're planning out your launch either this year or next year, obviously we hope this has helped impact this amplification strategy, impact your next launch. Feel free to reach out to Kelly or myself if you're interested in looking at the example videos that we had up here. We're also happy to PDF this presentation and send it to anybody that's an interest. The other thing is, since we're broadcasting this, it's going to be back on LinkedIn Live, or there's a recording after this too. So if you want to gain access to that, just use this same link. Kelly, anything else you want to mention before we wrap?
If anybody wants to sign up for our newsletter, we're happy to put you on our list. We've got really good information. We try to stay very focused on good, useful, helpful information that'll help you in your day-to-day positions and jobs.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks everyone for joining. Bye for now.
Bye.